All right, getting everything set up here. Should be able to get started in just a couple of minutes. We have a little audio blip probably. Yeah, we're getting ready to get started. So. All right, and here we are. We're getting ready to start episode 3 of Zen Moments. Just wait for 8 o'clock to roll around, watch some of this old footage of mine while we're waiting. How are, if there's anybody out there, how are the audio levels? Make sure that they're doing okay before we get started. Seems like maybe that needs to be a little higher.
Oh, how many more shots could I shoot there? Good grief. Oh, I'm out. I'm out. No, thank you, sir. Oh, no, no.
Oh no! You just flew past me.
You guys stole all the special. Uncool, man.
Okay, definitely not used to Warlock equip speeds. I keep expecting things that aren't going to happen.
Oh no, Jax, why?
Just trying to get all of my things set up here, so I'm ready to get started. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
No grenade. Wow, I just ran into all three of you.
Yes! so
Such a stupid night.
I could do. Like, there were people everywhere. Shit was flying. Oh my god, Raz, get out of here.
Oh. Raven, did your grenade bounce? Is that why it took forever? Or did you throw it last second?
I threw it last second.
Oh, okay. Sometimes it bounces.
It's the worst. That shit is so annoying. Oh my goodness. Boy, we know who's been picking up all the special crates. Raz. I'd be mad if I wasn't so impressed. Oh! I wanted it so bad. I mean, we're so behind at this point, like, who cares, right? Now it's for the glory of that. Specifically that. Yo, where my homies at? Hi.
Surprised I was able to get me with as high up in the air as I was.
All right.
Thinking,
Punch
no,
him.
no.
Almost time to get started. These this old PM match is the most recent footage I have from myself. Just pretty sad. Can't believe it. This is the last time I really played Crucible. but hopefully that'll be rectified on Thursday. By the way, there is a PM night on Thursday. If you're bored and want to do something fun, it's going to be a pretty good time.
How the fuck did I just get nailed through a wall?
Oh no, I could see you. I don't know why you just jumped around me, but I just watched you like jump right around me.
A double was out there. I knew two of you were out there. I could never did see where you were at.
No!
Oh man.
Oh my god.
Trades all day.
And we're just about up to 8 o'clock. We're going to see if anybody else rolls on in. But 8 o'clock hits, I'm going to go ahead and get started on 10 pins video. So just about ready to get started.
T-Rex arms, why?
Melee too.
All right, and here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Zen Moments. This is a Crucible gameplay analysis segment that I like to do on my stream here every now and then. Whenever you would like to get a analysis of your own, if that's something that you would be interested in, you can submit your clip through a link that I will provide. In the band if you're interested. Right now we're pretty much just doing it for people who are in the clan, but if anybody if you're interested in joining the clan, I have a link here in the stream. But the idea here is that I just go through your Crucible gameplay and try to come up with things that might help you do a little bit better. A lot of times people either don't record their gameplay and watch it back very often, or they don't know what they're looking for when they look at their own gameplay. So what I try to do is give you a fresh pair of eyes. I'm not going to go ahead and say that I am the greatest Crucible player in the world. I'm totally not. I've just spent a lot of time learning a lot of stuff about this game, and I like to pass that knowledge on when I can. And so this is just kind of a service for anybody that wants it. We do have 2 people that have submitted videos for today. There's actually even more that are on the backlog, but I just don't get to do this as often as I'd like to. So today we're going to be looking at footage from Tenpin on his Titan and footage from Kira Hitomi on his Hunter. And we have a real diversity of gameplay for today. So I think it's going to be a really interesting one. And so we're just going to go ahead. We're going to jump right into it. So we're going to go ahead and start with Kira's or with Tenpin's footage here. And before we get too far into it, we're gonna take a look at what he's using and just kind of get an idea. So he's using a Striker Titan with lightning grenades, shoulder charge, and he's using shock absorbers so that the lightning grenades last longer. He's using Shockwave on his Fist of Havoc. He's using a Clever Dragon. Looks like he's got one with Counterbalance and a Devil's Dawn. So that's always going to be the same. So one thing right off the bat here that we see at the beginning of this footage is that, you know, then you're going to see this throughout the footage here, is that you're doing a lot of real lofty jumps. Lofty jumps on Titans are just not super ideal. One thing that you just always want to remember with Titans is you really want to get that low to the ground skate going so that you get more vertical movement, or horizontal movement rather. The vertical movement just is not super strong with Titans because you're just so easy to hit. Also, Jex, Kira, good to see you in the chat. And we're going to keep on moving. So your Clever Dragon actually has pretty low stability at just 68. And so when you're trying to fire it here on this guy, you can see that, I mean, first of all, we obviously have some connection issues here, but using the range sight on that might not be the greatest idea. I would highly suggest switching over to the red dot sight because it actually does add a decent amount of stability onto the Clever Dragon, and I feel like that's going to help it so it doesn't get quite as much of that bounce that's kind of making some of your shots pop over his head. I feel like the range on the Clever Dragon is already so good that you really just don't need to be that concerned with losing some range by going over to that red dot. If you really prefer that sight, I'm not telling you have to change it, just saying that, like, I really prefer the red dot on there. So coming up here, you're going to get a couple of decent snipes. One thing that, like, we're going to see in here is that you have a lot of very passive gameplay in here. It's very kind of sit back and watch. So right here, you're looking down, looking for this guy, and then you let off right when they finally come through, which is just always the way. But just make sure you're always reading your radar. Your footage is a little dark, so it's kind of hard to see your radar on the footage. But there are a couple of times where we'll see in here where you just straight up don't get the radar to come through. So you'll see somebody on there and you just obviously weren't paying attention. So you got a couple of good little picks here with the Clever Dragon. It's a strong primary. It always does a good job. So there's one snipe. Then you get like the latest headshot in the world on this guy. But one thing that I wanted to talk about with your sniper especially is that your setup on it is you're using armor piercing rounds instead of quick draw, and armor piercing rounds doesn't do much of anything on snipers anymore. I highly suggest switching over to quick draw as it makes you aim down sights and draw your weapon faster. If you pay your razor, it'll save you. The linear compensator makes the recoil direction like straight up and down. So I would also use linear compensator instead of accurized ballistics. But again, personal preference. But I just think it makes the follow-up shots really, really easy. One thing here is that your general movement feels pretty slow. You should be Titan skating around. Right there, that guy just got a drop on you. It's not a ton you can do about that. But you really should be Titan skating into situations, taking a shot, backing out quickly. You hate to see the whiffed the whiffed Fists of Havoc. But if you don't know how to skate, or you don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about Titan skating, just let me know, and I'd be happy to give you a tutorial on that at some point. Another thing that you really need to maybe try is practice your drag scoping. When you're using your sniper, it seems like you're kind of seeing the target and moving it over to him and then taking the shot. And I'm pretty sure right here we see one of those moments. You get lucky in this one, but it's going to be... So, like, we're going to use this as an example. you see this guy, you slowly move your reticle and make sure it's over his head before you pull the trigger. And the thing is that this game is just too fast for it's just too fast for that kind of slow, deliberate movement. Every now and then you can get a good shot that way. And your pre-aiming isn't too bad. When you're zooming in right around head level. But you don't want to use that deliberate movement. Drag scoping is basically where you move the stick so that it goes over somebody's head, and you let the aim assist actually slow down your reticle and just pull the trigger as you whip by. It sounds really hard, and it's not the easiest thing in the world, but after a little bit of practice, you'll be a lot better with it. The main thing is when you do practice it and you get good at it, it makes you consistently not trade. A lot of times with snipers, you'll end up trading snipe for snipe, and this allows you to take a shot, and if you miss, you can run and reposition, before they get a shot off, or a lot of times you'll just end up getting the shot. So just keep that in mind, and see if you can give that a little bit of practice, because drag scoping would definitely help if you're going to stick with a sniper. So you can see here that you'll aim in and then just slowly move down to his head before you pull the trigger. And if he had been a little bit quicker, you would have gotten shot for sure. The next thing we're going to talk about is don't stay scoped in for too long. In a lot of these engagements, you're staying scoped in for a really long time. And when you do that, it's really easy for people to flank around you. So, you're staying scoped in and waiting for somebody to peek, but you should be constantly popping out to check the radar before popping back in with your sniper and with your primary. Drag scope practice will definitely help, but that was a good backup kill. It was a really solid backup kill. But like right here, I'm pretty sure at this point you're going to pull out your sniper and you're going to stay scoped in for a really, really long time. So the one thing here is, you're going to stay scoped in for a super long time looking at this angle. And while you're doing this, somebody flanks around from the side. So you miss this shot. You don't even check to see if anybody's come. And then you're going to see your teammates actually save your life right there because somebody had actually flanked around beside you. So if your teammates hadn't have been there, you would have been dead for sure. Hey guys, welcome to the chat. Thanks for coming in. So one thing to keep in mind there is, this is a solid 20-second scope in that you're doing here, where you've scoped in, you've committed to this, and then it's not until you see your friend shooting that you realize, oh crap, there's somebody right beside us. It's really a good sign that you need to be scoping out more often. So one of the things that you're doing here in this little segment as well, we'll back up to 4 minutes and take another look at this. So you're really looking hard at this angle, and that guy comes out and you get a shot off on him, but you don't get the kill. And in that instance, you shouldn't wait for them to double peek. You should kind of rotate to get yourself into a better cover scenario, into another cover scenario. At that point, he knows exactly where you are and can then react to you by coming out when he's ready. Once he pops out here and you do that, you really should have moved to the other side of the hall just to, make him go, wait, where did he go? If you decided to challenge again. But in that moment, the real thing there was just the fact that you're scoped in so long, you almost got flanked. So here we're going to see, a lot of looking down this hallway. Nothing wrong with that. You're holding down the hall. But on this map, you generally want to try to get up to B. So, B is your strong point on this map, regardless of what you're in, because you have high ground and you have a lot of angles. So over here, that red bar Stormcaller, look at him teleport everywhere. It's amazing. So now you're gonna get your super up again, and we're gonna have another fun death from above. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm terrible at death from above. I'm literally the worst. Okay, which is why I don't use it, because I think it's just so unreliable unless you're really good with it. I highly suggest running Aftermath instead, since you're using the helmet that gives you death from above by default. Or use another exotic. I think there's a lot of Titan exotics that are really worth using. But like in that moment, where you biff the super, I mean, that shit happens. It happens all the time. But when you biff it, instead of trying to engage that guy, you're coming out of your super animation. The best thing you could have done would have been to just back up out of there. Throw a grenade, to block him off as fast as you can, but just to get out of the situation. You know that guy had heavy, because, at that moment he had just picked up heavy from the heavy box. And so, challenging him with a super was a good idea to get rid of some heavy, but he's going to have a heavy machine gun or a rocket or something. Like, if you miss that, you've got to get out. And I think you could have actually beaten him if you had thrown a lightning grenade, but you never know what's going to happen. But like, that's why I think, Twilight Garrison is one of my favorites, because it helps you get out of scenarios so fast. So yeah, unless that guy had really screwed up with his heavy machine gun, there was no way that, you were going to win that fight. So one of the things that, is just kind of a lingering thing here in the footage is that, you just need to kind of work on your reaction time. When you see an enemy, you want to get into your ADS more quickly, start getting shots in on them. This includes taking faster shots with your sniper, but honestly, even with your primary, you want to make sure that you're not waiting to take those shots. The last thing that I want to mention, and then I'll just kind of stick to what's going on in the game here, is that a lot of your gameplay is standing and waiting. Like in this moment, there's nobody on your radar. There's no reason to stay where you're at, but you're being very cautious about moving out. And so, in those moments, you really should be, working. That was a great body shot. But you really want to be moving towards that red, especially, play to the playlist you're in. You're in Clash. You don't want to die, but you also don't want to just be standing around. You need to get those kills to get the score going. And by you standing back, sure, you're not dying, but you're not helping with team fights either. So make sure you're moving with your teammates, and that you're not standing somewhere where there's just no one on the radar at all, because it's not helping the numbers of this many versus this many people. Some of your lightning grenades have some interesting effects on placement. You do have some really fun shoulder charges in there, but I think in general you're just not using your equipment as much as you could be. And I think a part of that, is, and we'll talk about this a little more when we get down to your postmortem after we're done with the clip here. But I think a lot of that might just be that, maybe really look at the class that you're using and decide whether or not this is, Striker is the class that's going to benefit you the most. Keep in mind that everything that I say in these are just suggestions. Hey, Double, welcome. And Mac, And let's see who else we got. Kira and Jex are in here. Awesome. How's it going, guys? But really think about what is your play style, and how can your class help you play to that play style. So for me, as I watch this footage, you're playing very passively, and Striker is straight up not a passive class. You can play it passively, but it's not the primary way to play it. You really, its super is you have to be in their face. So it's definitely more of an aggressive class, and that's just something to think about. And we'll get into that a little bit more in the post-mortem here. This is another scenario where, like, you've got a decent amount of time where you just haven't seen anybody, and then you finally found some with that super, which was a good super usage that time. Good work. But you just definitely don't want to stay out of the scenario. You could be moving around the map a whole lot faster than you are. And, just in general, your movement just feels a little slow and stiff. So, try using more sliding, using more sprinting, and moving cover to cover. And we're going to go into all of that here in the post-mortem. So it wasn't by any means, it was a good game. And it was really fun for me to review. And so let's go ahead and break down your post-mortem. So that was, I think, a 1.4 KD, nice match. But let's go over a little bit, what was going on in this match. So one of the things that you need to do is just work on your movement. We talked about that a lot. Titan skating is key to playing a Titan. A lot of what you're doing here in these gunfights too is moving very forward and backward. Try incorporating more left to right movement once you get into a gunfight. Strafing is super crucial to winning gunfights, especially, in a meta like we have where time to kill is so fast. Your cover to cover movement. Cover to cover basically just means moving from as you're moving across the map, you're moving from one piece of cover to another instead of running right down the middle of a lane. You're a little safer on Thieves' Den for the most part because people generally don't use their sniper rifles on Thieves' Den too much. But it's still a good thing to do, is to make sure you're not running down the middle of a lane. Even if it throws off one of their shots, it's giving you one more shot. It's giving you one more opportunity to win a gunfight. You need to be sprinting whenever it's on cooldown and you can. And, remove the kind of high flying jump. Don't let yourself get super vertical. Really keep yourself horizontal. A lot of that is, skating techniques where you jump just before you touch the ground. You're just tapping the button so that you're moving more horizontally along the ground. But especially incorporate sliding. If you slid in this clip, it may have been once. Sliding is super, super crucial to movement in this game. It helps you dodge shots. It helps you stay off the radar. It helps you do a lot of things. So think about incorporating crouching more into your footage or into your gameplay. The other thing that I wanted to go into here in the post-mortem is find a loadout that matches your playstyle. Or to adjust your playstyle to your loadout. Your loadout gun-wise is good for your playstyle. It's, in general, we talked about different ways that you could build your guns out. But the main thing I wanted to bring up was just Striker Titan. If you're going to play Striker, you got to get in their face. You got to get in there. You've got to be constantly applying pressure. A couple other loadout things that you can consider. You want to be using your grenades way more often if you're going to be a striker. Lightnings are great, but you have them cooled down through most of this match and you don't throw one. And lightnings are way too good to not be throwing them constantly. You want to get them stuck on a wall so that the cone goes out instead of sticking them to a floor. General stuff like that. Your positioning was a little odd as well for most of the grenades you threw. So just make sure that you're really thinking about kind of the geometry of the scenario. I'd also go for transfusion over aftershocks. Transfusion gives you your health back when you get a shoulder charge, and when you get melee kills, and when you get like everything. It's just like it's such a strong perk to let you be aggressive, and then you don't have that downside of like if you get the kill, you don't have the downside of being overly aggressive. I would melee a lot more often. Shoulder charge is awesome, but if you stay passive, you might use Juggernaut and Unstoppable instead, just to get the additional armor. Your exotic choice is it's okay. I don't mind I don't even remember what that one's called off the top of my head. The something something light, doesn't matter. It gives you the extra perks by default. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Twilight Garrison. Dune Marchers are also really good. Anything that gives you movement abilities is always going to be a really strong exotic. Movement is so key to surviving in this game. So, even Armamentarium is really good on strikers because you get 2 lightning grenades, but you got to be chucking those things. If you were to change your actual class, I'd suggest trying Sunbreaker. I don't know how much time you've put on Sunbreaker, but you have a choice of pressuring grenades if you want to be aggressive with incendiaries. You can shotgun, or you can use shotgun rush deterrents like fusion grenades. You can basically play it aggressive, or you can play it passively. Your super allows you to pop it at a distance and throw them from much further away. And most of your gameplay is you just basically trying to stay out of shotgun range. Very infrequently are you getting shotgunned in this footage because you are keeping your distance pretty much all the time. That's not really where strikers are strong. That's where you get Helm of Endless Light. Thank you, Double. But that's really where, strikers live in that close engagement. Like their melee can almost one-shot somebody. I just feel like maybe you should try Sunbreaker. Just see how you like it. Maybe if you haven't used it in a long time, try a couple of different builds and see what you think. But that's my number 2 point. So you have 4 things to work on. 1 is your movement. Number 2 is really find your loadout. Number 3 is run away. If you're in a losing fight, you need to bug out. You just need to get out of there. I talk about this with almost everybody that I do reviews for. I think people don't realize how powerful running away is, but it's going to be the single most powerful thing that you can do to increase your KD. Don't get yourself stuck in a 1v2 or a 1v3. If you see more than one person, just leave. The odds of you even killing one of them is low. So just make sure that you're always running away when you need to. And the last point is don't stay still, especially if there's no red on the map. We talked about this quite a bit, but make sure that you're rotating to find advantageous positions. Keep going in and out of your scope so you can see the radar. Hard scoping for too long is a major no-no because you're going to either get flanked or, they're going to know where you're at and you're just going to be a sitting duck, for, getting pinched or having a 1v2 scenario. You just don't want to stay still for too long in this game. It's a game of movement, and just make sure that you're really moving around the map. So thank you so much for submitting your clip. I hope this is really helpful, and we're going to move on now to Kira. All right, so Kira actually submitted 4 clips to me, but I decided for this first one, we're just going to review 2 of them. One thing to note here is that this very first match, as you can tell from the title, is a 15.0 KD match. It's not exactly what I generally look for in clips for Zen Moments, but I thought that this could be an interesting experiment because even with a 15.0 KD, there's still things that you can find in the clips where it's like, man, that is, I can see where that could be done a little better, or like maybe there's some improvement to be found there. You can still find some of the cracks in your gameplay, even in a match that's that good. So this was during an Iron Banner match for when it was Iron Banner Rift. And so, we're going to get, just as a fair warning, we're going to get pretty nitpicky. All right. So, whereas the other one felt like a little more broad strokes, this is going to be very specific. So the very beginning of the match here, you obviously understand pre-nades and a lot of the other smaller things that a lot of times I talk about on these talks. So I will say that right off the bat here, you have a really great pre-nade to block off the entry into the platform that we're going to see. But a lot of what I'm going to talk about in this is make sure. So there's your good pre-nade. You throw the smoke in there. It's blocked that off. Nobody's coming up that way. Right here, you're going to help keep them from coming up to get the spark. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about in this is going to be playing to the playlist that you're in. If you're going for a 15 KD match, then you're probably not going to be playing the objective as much. But in Iron Banner, when you're trying to for sure get wins, you want to make sure you're playing the objective. So this is a great thing right here at the beginning, is that you close off these guys from coming up. You're damaged, so you back off. Perfect play. But at this point, he's grabbed the spark and he's starting to run towards the portal. When you start to regain health, you at this point, he's going to run and he's going to get killed before he even gets through the portal. Once somebody has the spark, like, you need to be providing defense for him. Like, even if you were weak, if you had jumped into that hallway to soak up some bullets so that guy could have gotten through the portal, he may have gotten a dunk. You don't know, but he would have at least been able to make it through the portal, more than likely, because it was only one bullet away from him getting through. So that's the kind of thing where, like, when you're playing to the objective, make sure that you're always trying to, make sure that the thing that's going to get everybody the most points is going to be what you're working for. So your movement here is great. You never stop moving, which is a perfect thing to do. You always want to be kind of moving around, shaking around. So I wanted to talk about actually this second pre-nade a little bit. So there's nobody really on your radar. So you move up onto the platform a little bit. And you throw the grenade right here. So the spark just started charging. It's got 14 seconds left. Like I said, this is going to be pretty nitpicky. So when you're in a scenario where the spark is charging, you want to save that grenade for when the spark is charged or when it's close to charged. So by throwing it so early, there's no way that your cooldown is going to be back up in time to throw another grenade on it. Smoke will slow him down. Grenade would have killed him, right? So, at most you'll be back to 50% by the time the spark is up. It's going to make it just a little bit harder to help deny that. Again, super nitpicky, just something to think about. So at this point, you're just basically fending them off. You got a great kill here, and then you immediately reload. But look at how much red is on your radar. You've got one guy that's close over here. You've got a dude that's coming in from the stairs on the other side. This is a problem that I have a lot too. When you use a special weapon, especially, you get a kill, you reload it. Your setup has got, what, 5 or 6 in the mag for Saladin's Vigil? I think 5. If you see red on the radar, don't reload your gun unless you are absolutely have to. Because at this point, this guy's coming in and you could have already, you're lucky that he didn't see you in that scenario. But, like I said, this is a 15-0 match, so everything ends up working out for you in this. So everything that I'm saying is like, this could have maybe saved you even more. It's a little bit harder to critique, but you get a couple of really great Saladin's Vigil kills here, which I love to see that because I love that fusion rifle so much. But another thing to point out right here is that you've got this guy right here that's super weak because you fusioned him. So instead of doing a follow-up fusion, it's always going to be faster to flip to your primary and just take a shot. Not only do you save one of your special ammos, but your primary bullet's going to come out a lot faster than a second fusion shot. I'm also very guilty of that, by the way. I love shooting a second shot of a fusion because it's just so satisfying to see them vaporize away. But it's just not as efficient. So right here is another scenario that we're going to nitpick just a little bit. So this is one of those instances where you only see his head popping up over the top. Head only showing shots like that with fusions are almost always going to require you to pull down on the stick as you fire. So as you fire, you pull down on your right stick so that spread stays in the same general area. But honestly, I probably would have just not even tried to hit it with a fusion. Flip out to your primary, reposition. You have a grenade and a smoke on cooldown. Chuck those in there. It's just that's kind of a worst case scenario for fusion rifles is when you can only see the head. You need to have a large, massive body in order to get a one shot with it. So, again, this ends up working out for you. You dip immediately afterwards, which is good. It's exactly what you should have done. And this flank was great. The only way that the flank could have been better, because you got real lucky right there that he was like mid-blink weirdness. But in this moment, instead of jumping down into the pit where you jump, if you had jumped right over to this high ground over here on the right-hand side of the screen, to that platform, you would have been at a complete advantage. His blink never could have taken him up there. He would have had the low ground. You would have had a full body image of him to shoot with your fusion rifle that's out. But lucky for you, he really messed up his melee and you were able to capitalize on it. So now on this next one, this next time the spark comes up, you're going to do a lot better job of stepping up and defending your runner here. So here he is, and he's running, and you jump up in there to make sure that you eat some of those bullets. He still gets stopped, but you did everything you could. The only critique I would have had for that engagement is that with so many guys in that hallway, would have been a perfect time to drop a wombo combo in there. We'll back it up so we can see again. But like as you step up in here, if you had thrown some grenades, it possibly could have even stopped their sight line a little bit and could have possibly helped him survive. but there's no way to know. More than likely, he still would have died. So that crispy distance fusion, so crispy. Solid wait and see. You know, the one thing you can start getting a bit of pre-charge on there by tapping the trigger to shave a little bit of time off of that. I mean, it was a great shot, but you can definitely do a little more to try to get that shot off faster than they can possibly shoot at you. This next thing here with this guy, I'm not sure if this guy's ever held a controller before. Your ADS was a bit long, and that's how he managed to flank you in this scenario. So we're going to back it up so we can see that. This guy just straight up fucks up. I don't know what he's even doing. Like, he shoots at you so many times and just misses like crazy. So you get that fusion, and you see this guy on your map, but you ADS, and now all of a sudden he's right on top of you. And what is he doing? Can anybody in chat tell me what that dude just did? Because I can't. I'm just like, he's... but you kept your cool, you maintained, you flipped to your other weapon. You did it. You could have flipped a lot faster, obviously, but a lot of times you don't even realize you don't still have shots until you don't. It's always a good habit to get into, though, to just flip to your primary if you don't get a kill with a special shot. You know, that way you don't have to have the oh shit dance like that when it happens. So one thing that I was really impressed with your footage is that when you do get outnumbered, you get the hell out of dodge. And that's so rare to see in a lot of this footage. You know, right here, all of a sudden, there's more people and you just get out of there. You didn't even wait. And that's perfect. That's exactly what you want to see in these scenarios. Now, right here, there's 16 seconds left on this crate. And you wait for this like whole 15 seconds for this crate to come up. That's a little long. I love special as much as the next guy, but even if you just move out to see if something comes up on your radar, when you can see somebody's behind you here on the radar, like, you know, you could have moved out and tried to intercept this guy to you know, make sure that he doesn't come in and super this special crate. There's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of things you could have done there, but, you know, just one thing to keep in mind is that you want to kind of think of when you do need special like that, think of the special crate kind of the same way you think of a bubble. It's got like a bungee tied around your waist. You can go out from it a little bit. Just don't go too far because you need to make sure you can come back and get that special. So we're going to see that same hunter again here. And seriously, this guy cannot aim with a sidearm. Like, what the fuck? All right, so one thing that I wanted to point out here in Rift, you know, 2,000 points is not very far ahead. So, you're playing a really passive game, but you guys aren't ahead by very much. So, you know, you have to make sure that you're playing the OBJ when you're in an OBJ. If this were Clash, you are playing amazingly, like the best. You know, this is like an ideal Clash match. But in Rift, you know, not pursuing the runner as the enemy has a runner out, especially when you have a super that you could throw to slow him down or stop him. It's not really playing the objective too much. He gets stopped, but I mean, he just about gets there here. So it's just something to always think about. Like, look at how close he is. Like, he just barely got stopped. And, you know, the whole time you're basically just waiting for the next reset. So that smoke tag, by the way, is beautiful. I love that. Like, You can see him on the radar. You know he wants to peek, and you just throw it right there, and you get a solid tag on it. And then you don't pursue too fast. You just move up into that hallway. You take your time to make sure that he's not standing there with a shotgun. Like, you played that just about as perfect as you could have. However, if I was to make one critique, like I said, I'm nitpicking like crazy. Instead of moving up into the hallway like you did, you could have moved up behind the little half walls that are back at the back of this platform. Since you're using a scout rifle, you still could have got the shots in, but you would have been far enough away that no special, short of a sniper, could have really killed you in one shot, since he would have not had full vision of you. So it's not really a critique, just more of like, always think moving cover to cover. You moved out of cover into an open area instead of moving cover to cover. I do want to say that you've had this super now for a solid 2 minutes. Another thing to think about: don't hold on to supers too long. I know that with tether, a lot of times it's like, I just want to use it for like a big advantageous scenario. But, if it's sitting there charged, you're not charging up for your next one. So just, you want to make sure that you're not holding on to it for too long. Just about got that guy. But, ended up getting another Rift Ignite. That's good. So I'm pretty sure right here you're going to use another really early grenade on the charge spot. Yeah, so there's obviously people in the hall, but it would have been better to wait until they actually pushed up when it was closer to the time being up, because then they would have been forced to move up into it. Just like you did with the smoke right there. It was a perfect time to use that. So now you're coming back for heavy ammo, and I don't know if you know what I'm going to complain about here, but you grab the heavy ammo in Rift with none of the rest of your team around, and there's no red on the thing. Like, oh boy, like you're really lucky that your team was not put at a severe disadvantage by only having one box of heavy. That being said, like, I know this is just a bunch of blues, so it's really hard to get them to actually come to the crate. But you also have a runner that's got 3 dots on the board, so more than likely they're not going to be challenging those crates as much as trying to stop that runner. So it definitely would have been better to wait for at least one other guy to come around to grab the heavy. Waiting out the heavy and Rift is a risky move, though, so I get why you did it. But okay, so right here you've got heavy, and I'm pretty sure if I can get into your head a little bit, I think at this point you're like, man, I haven't died, and I've gotten like 10 or 11 kills at this point. I should go for a Mark of the Unbroken. And to that I say, cool for you. Like, good job. If that's what you're going for, then, that's perfect. You're playing it perfectly. Otherwise, there's a couple of moments in here where, you're going to be very passive because you've got heavy and because they have heavy, and you don't want to challenge that heavy very hard. You want them to run out. And I totally understand that. And in the end, it ends up helping out your team. I always say that, if you're going to pick up heavy, you need to get the number of kills that you would have gotten if you had just challenged a heavy. Like, if you would have challenged the heavy with your super on the other side and gotten 3 kills, then you need to get at least 3 kills with your heavy. And you do. You get quite a few kills here with your heavy. So, you did what I think is necessary to merit this kind of play. But again, you're being very passive for for having heavy, and you're, you know, instead of pushing up to try to help your team get the OBJ, you know, you're gonna basically sit back and try to make sure that you that your heavy doesn't get knocked out too early. Your friend right there is shooting at stuff, and at that point, you know, they haven't shot a rocket at him yet. I would have pushed up to help him, probably. But, you know, that's all, you know, again, it's what is your goal in that moment, you know. Yeah, he's getting ready to. It's gonna be pretty great. So the rest of this gameplay doesn't show a lot other than basically killing the shit out of people with heavy. And a lot of it is, you know, waiting on the platform with not a lot of red around. So again, you know, you've got heavy. At this point, they don't have any heavy left. Getting a solid push with your runner could help close this match out faster. But again, I think at this point, you're just like, no, man, I'm going to go for that Mark of the Unbroken. And I respect that. So what I'm going to talk about for the rest of it here is that you have a really passive play style. And you stick to that mantra literally this entire match. So, you know, I think that having a playstyle, knowing your playstyle, and picking a class based on your playstyle is such a powerful tool in this game, and I think that you've definitely got that figured out at this point. You know, you're using a nice passive class, and there you go. There's your 15 kills. But I think that, you know, all in all, this is a fantastic game. There were a couple of moments where you just got super lucky. I mean, so lucky. But you come out of it 15-0, and that's friggin' baller. I think that, you know, again, you've literally sat on this super the entire game. You haven't shot a super the whole time up to this point. You're at, you know, 16,000 points on the board, and you still haven't shot a super yet. So you want to make sure you're using your super. If you're not using a super, you know, use Fellwinters. Fellwinters is a great thing to use if you're not interested in using the bow, because the bow is inconsistent. I've been using my hunter the last week or two, and oh my god, that bow pisses me the hell off in PvP. It's so annoying. I'm thinking about using Fellwinters if I could just take off my third eye Gellion. You know, this is another scenario. You're purposely running here, I think, so that you don't lose your Unbroken. So, like I said, I think somewhere in there you decided, like, yes, this is, I'm going to go for the Unbroken, and you did it, and that's awesome. So, it's a really great game. I mean, really phenomenal game. It's the kind of game that you should be super proud of. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to even find stuff in there. I had to watch the video like 3 times to even find stuff. It's like enough stuff to talk about. So from that, we're going to move on to your second game here. And the second game is, another real high KD match, not near as much. Talking like a 4 KD, like 3 point something in there. But I thought this one was really interesting in comparison, because you still use your passive playstyle, but you definitely don't have that moment where you're like, okay, no, I'm going for Unbroken. So I feel like this one's a little bit more telling of your general play style. So here at the very beginning of the match, you're going to have this really great flank. But I want you to notice that when you pursue your marked target, you push out into the middle of a lane, and you have no cover to hide behind. And so it ends up screwing you. This is going to be Iron Banner Rift again, double. So, you know, one of the things that you could have done in that scenario is, you know, make sure you move out into cover. Don't pursue a target where it's going to put you into a kind of where it puts you into a precarious situation like this. And also, like, you know, using your equipment once you get outnumbered like that could have been huge in this, but we'll see it here in a second. Kind of pre-talking here just to make sure that I get to everything. But you're gonna move around the backside here and come up into this doorway, and the flank is actually pretty strong because you come out, because of the little stumbling there, you actually come out kind of late. And you're able to get that guy tagged, but when you move out here into the middle of the lane, now there's two guys up here. You get the first guy real low, and then the second guy jumps out. Like, if you had thrown a wombo up there, it could have gotten a double kill. You never know. Right here, do a good job clearing the grenade. You know, a lot of people do not clear grenades. If you see a grenade on the wall, clear the grenade. Unless you're like actively being shot at, just get rid of that thing. You're gonna end up saving people on your team's life. So great job clearing the grenade. Oh man, grenade tracking. That was such a funny grenade. Wah wah. But yeah, just make sure that you lead your target a little more when you're throwing them, so that, you know, they don't get quite so far behind them. You're really lucky at this moment that the Warlock didn't pursue. You were so weak that if I was that guy, I would have ran after you. You're also really lucky right here that this guy comes around with a shoulder charge. I honestly don't know how he misses. This is crazy. Like, he just waited too long, I guess? I don't even know. But, you know, you maintained composure and you came up with a kill. So, you know, it's hard to complain. It's hard to make too much critique about that. Here you're putting consistent damage on people. But in this moment right here, you know, you've got your grenade on cooldown. This guy stepped around the corner. With you being as weak as you are, like, I would have just chucked that grenade even a couple of seconds before that, just to close off the doorway so that the runner couldn't come through. I say that. I wouldn't have actually done that in the moment because I don't think fast enough, but that's something that you could have done that may have ended up, you know, making sure that you didn't end up getting killed here by this second guy. He ends up getting cleaned up, I think. Oh no, he sticks that guy like an asshole. So you're using cover really well, but your movement in this game actually feels just a little bit on the slower side. So you know, make sure that you're utilizing sprint and slide. Make sure you're using shade step. You don't use shade step for quite a while in this match. I remember when I actually saw you do shade step, I was like, oh right, he's got that exotic on that lets him do shade step. Yeah, like right here, you're holding down this point really well. There's a shade step to get out of the smoke. Great work with that. But like, you know, when you're taking too much fire and you're real close to dying, shade stepping out of there is, you know, another great way to use it. You don't want to flop around, and you definitely don't do that. I think you could use it just a little bit more. Not a lot more, just a little bit. So at this point, you've got a tether up, and coming up here in a little bit, you know, would have been a pretty decent time to have thrown it. Basically, when this next spark comes charging up, I think would have been a pretty good time to use your tether because you could have locked down. By the way, great strafe game. Look at this. Look at this strafe game on this. You're just moving around. You're making this guy work for it so hard, and you come up with the win by popping behind that cover. It's a great, great play. So right here, when you've got this, this point right here, and a bunch of guys are going to come rushing in, it would have been a great place to just throw down a tether, jump up, throw down a tether, try to catch some of these guys in it. You definitely back off, which is a good play as well. But like shooting it up into there right there would have been pretty good. You get flanked, you try to get behind cover. What are you going to do? So one thing you're going to notice here is that each time that you die, you're going to keep using the same path to get back to the same place. Now, it does end up working for you in this match for the most part. But in general, using the same paths time and time again is going to be really bad, especially in smaller team games, because people get used to it and they're like, oh, that's where that guy's going to be. You pretty much lock down this one spot for most of the game, which can be a really good thing in Rumble, and it can be a good thing in Rift as well. But I'm surprised that they let you get away with it as much as they do. You're making great plays, and that's what's making it hard for them to get you out of this spot. But it is generally like better if you keep kind of moving from that spot to keep yourself unpredictable. And you are in ways. Like here, you've moved to the other side of the stairs, and you just keep kind of ducking around down in the same general area. So you're doing a pretty decent job. Somehow this hammer, you dodged this hammer. I don't know how. Like that hammer had your number and you got out of there. And I was just like, all right, sure. So definitely an odd time to use the tether. I know there's more of an oh shit tether. But I just thought it was interesting because I hadn't seen you really use a tether through all the footage so far. And like, that was the moment that you used it. I was like, oh, interesting. All right. So now you've got your heavy back again. Another thing to note in here is just remember to use all your tools. So far, you've barely, if you've even taken a shot with your fusion, I can't remember at this point, but if you have, you're barely using your special in this match. So just remember that you do have lots of tools, and make sure that you're using them in the right distances. So, during heavy, I generally don't say too much on these things because, it's heavy. You're playing nice passive gameplay. That overshield is ridiculous. You put so many heavy shots in it. I don't even know. That overshield, though. Now, what's great is, we're coming up on it right here. This that you're about to do is like what I call just systematic. This is good Rift play. Your teammate gets, you're putting in fire to help him get a spark. You've cleared them out. You've done your job. And then you follow after this guy and help him blaze a path. You check and make sure nobody's coming, and then you come in behind him. And this is how you play Rift, right? Like at this point, it's a close game, and you come in and you just destroy these guys. You throw a smoke in there. You do everything that you should do. It doesn't matter that you died because this guy gets through to the Rift, right? All that matters in that scenario is that you get him to the Rift, and you did it. And like a big part of him getting there was because you pushed with him. But see right here, we're running the same path again. We're going to take the same path back to the same area. So this is a really risky engagement right here. Like you're really weak, and you pop back out before you've fully recovered anyway. And then you're following with another risky engagement right here where you were weak and you just flat out outplay the guy. I probably would have shade stepped back even earlier because I'm a bit of a wimp and I like to be really safe. But again, you made it work. A lot of times these plays that I'm like, I don't know, man. I would have played it different. Like you end up making it work. So you kind of got to take it with just that in a perfect scenario, this would have maybe worked better. That lag of Havoc though, like what are you going to do about that, man? Like he just was moving and then he wasn't. So there's going to be a couple of shots in here where you just miss some shots. That shit happens, man. But you may just end up needing to work a little bit on kind of your tracking and leading when they are that far off and moving quickly left and right. It's just that there was a bunch of them in a row. I think that maybe you were just like frazzled or something. Because I hadn't seen that throughout the rest of your gameplay. But yeah, I think just all in all in this game, just working on being more unpredictable and playing the objective is really like the only big things that I can even mention on this one. Because you play a great game and you guys end up, this is a really close game and you end up winning it. Like you have another thing here where, you've got your runner going, runner goes down, but I'm pretty sure you guys pick it up again and you help him push it in another time here to finish off the game. And like, in the end of the day, that's what Rift is all about. You want to get that push and you want to get them, into the Rift so that you can get those big points on the board, especially when it's Iron Banner. Look at that guy fly. So that guy had a fun Fist of Havoc. So you got the runner again. He's going to loop back. And I'm pretty sure that you help him with a kill here, and then you just run in behind him. And you guys get one more dunk to end the game. Like, just a really great game of Rift, like it was a well balanced game between both sides, and you played really well. So let's talk a little bit about your top 3 things to work on. Yeah, look at that, 25 kills in that one. This is a great game. 3.57 KD. So your top 3 things to work on, in my opinion. Make sure you're playing to the game mode. I think I've said that like 500 times now. But just, being a team player, when you're in a team game, you had great play, especially if both of these were clash matches. Rift is just a little bit different. High KD is great, but losing an Iron Banner kind of sucks, That's all I'm going to say about that. We've gone over it plenty in the last like 20, 30 minutes. Another thing is adding variety to your movement. Always be thinking about changing your height, sliding, jumping, shade stepping, sprinting. They're all really important. Think about being more unpredictable with your strafes. Your strafes are actually really good. You're moving left to right in a really good pattern. You're always making sure that you're never standing completely still. And that's good. That's exactly what you want to be doing. At this point, think more about like how you're moving place to place. Are you moving safely? Are you jumping up over stuff instead of just running through a lane? Those are the kind of things that are going to take your KD, to the next level when it comes to movement. And the last thing I'm going to say is that even though you stuck to your passive playstyle, I think you should try to get just a little more aggressive and unpredictable. Currently, you're playing like a sniper, but your loadout doesn't exactly play to that strength. Your loadout, with a vigil in it is almost like a novelty. Like you use it when you have an instant to switch to it and try it. Like this last gameplay is a great example of how like you have it and it's fun when you get the kills with it, but you don't need it to get kills. People that use shotguns the correct way don't use shotguns because they have to. They use it because it's the most advantageous thing to use at that range. Same thing should be true of using a vigil. There were a lot of instances in this last game where you could have gotten a faster kill with the fusion rifle than with your scout. That being said, numbers don't lie. You got a really high KD, so I don't want to like be too critical of it. I'm just kind of saying like think about your loadout and think about how that influences the way that you play. Most of your engagements should be mid to long range, and most of the engagements that you tried to keep were long to long range. If you're going to be long to long range, use a sniper. You get a lot of instant kills with a sniper from when you keep your distance. But using a vigil is super fun. It's the best. But you just might want to tighten up those distances just a little bit if you want to get some of those one bangs in there. Start to contest a lane at a distance, and then the next time approach the lane from a different, closer angle using the vigil. So in this scenario, you're coming in from this one direction every time. If you had come in up top with the vigil the next time, no one would have saw that coming because this Ricky guy keeps coming in the back because he knows you're going to be there. And Vic, those two guys kept coming in the back because they knew you'd be there. Coming in from a different angle could have thrown them off of their kind of like path to come try to deal with you. Giving your enemies confused where they'll find you next will make them edgy, and eventually you'll start to win gunfights just because they don't know where to expect the pressure from. So your three things are play to your game mode, add variety to your movement, and get maybe just a little more aggressive. Not much. Just a little. All right. That is the footage from Kira, the two that I did this week. Kira, I'll probably jump back and do your other two that you submitted at some point soon. I just didn't want this one to go on for too terrible long. I like to keep these around between 60 and 90 minutes. And it looks like this one ended up being a solid 75. So I want to thank everybody that's submitted clips. I'm trying to get to these as fast as I can. I have, one for double, one for Jex in there still, a couple for Kira. But anybody who's interested in putting in footage, please feel free to keep submitting them to the submission form. I'll make sure that I link it in the Destiny chat again for y'all. But I really appreciate you guys getting footage, and I appreciate you guys wanting to review your footage, and have your footage reviewed. I hope that the stuff that I give you guys, you take it as like it's all just me just looking raw at your footage and trying to make suggestions based on what I know. And I hope that it helps you, improve your game even just a little bit. So I want to thank everybody for coming to the stream. I totally appreciate it. I was going to play some games afterwards, but this went a little long, so I think I'm going to go ahead and just sign off for the night. So thank you all for coming, and I'll stick around in the chat for just a little bit to say bye to everybody, but peace out and have a good one.